Okay, so this will be the first of many sessions today where we're going to have some theme, and we're going to have a bunch of startup founders and presenters get up to tell us a little bit about what they're working on. And so we're going to have the first session here is about scalability. Obviously, we've heard a lot about big data recently. It's been in the news. You can't miss it. Recently we had, Facebook open source their data center. So, a lot of stuff going on in the area of scaling. We have 5 startups that will be tackling scaling. They're all new database companies. And I'll just go over the rules real quickly for you. So like I said, there's 5 startups. Each of them will have 6 minutes to present. And then they get the hook. They can't go any longer than 6 minutes. We've seen some guys have this down to a T where they end at exactly 6 minutes, so we're going to be looking for that, or shorter. No, you think you're going to run longer. And the judges who are sitting here will have 8 minutes for Q&A. Every now and then, we have some extra time in case somebody in the room wants to ask a question. I want to introduce our judges to you right now. First, we have Charlie DeBona. He's sitting over here. He's General Manager for Strategy Server and Tools for the Strategy Server and Tools business with Microsoft. Then Jerome Labatt. He is Vice President of R&D Cloud System Lab and BSA at HP Software. Lior Nur, Director of Strategy and Portfolio Management at Nokia. And then Chris Weitz, who you've all met earlier, he is Director of Technology Integration and Strategy and Architecture at Deloitte. He heads the global cloud practice. So is our clock ready to go? Okay, our first presenter is David McFarlane with Akiban Technologies.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. This is going to be pretty fast. So at Akiban, we've developed a data grouping technology that allows you to do 2 fundamental things. The first is it allows you to scale your existing relational database without having to change your code, your schema, or your architecture. And the second is that it allows you to run queries on operational data in real time. Why does this matter? Well, as we've just been saying, there is this exponential growth in data. There's growth in terms of unstructured data, but equally growth in terms of structured data. The traditional technology that we've had available to us for the last 40 years has been the relational database. It is the workhorse of the enterprise. It is prolific. It is everywhere. The problem with the relational database is that it's fundamentally challenged in meeting this demand in growth of data. Why? Because it stores information in tables. Tables are a phenomenal logical model, but in terms of a physical model, really pretty lousy in terms of this level of scalability. What Akiban does is we address the problem at its very core. We have created a technology that allows you to effectively join for free, and that's what I want to show you. So let's think about that in terms of an enterprise application, like electronic medical records. It starts off, of course, with a simple document around an individual patient, but there are many other players that are involved in that. And each one of those and the relationships between them have to be represented in the data architecture. That leads to a data structure that looks like this. Actually looks way worse than this. It is hundreds of tables, and in many instances, thousands of tables that are required to represent all of that information and the relationships between that information. The challenge is when you come to access that information. You have to join. Fundamentally, you have to join at the database level, linking the data together and assembling it, or you have to join at the application level with multiple round trips to the database and then assemble the object. The innovation, the disruptive innovation that Akiban is bringing to this market is we have created an ability that allows us to deterministically understand the relationship between those entities. We understand how tables are used together. And then tables that are used together, we store together. We group them. We co-locate the information in one simple structure that represents all the information that you are typically going to use in any related transaction. But, and this is an important but, the logical schema stays the same. So nothing changes in your application, nothing changes in your tooling, nothing changes from a development point of view. But under the covers, we have reorganized it into this simple structure, pre-joined for efficient access. Why is that important? Well, fundamentally, it makes it fast, as you'll see in a moment. We've eliminated the cost of joins in these relational architectures, but also easy because nothing's changed in the schema, and when you want to access information, it's all actually pre-joined together. Finally, as a data structure, it's actually effectively, for those in the technical arena, it's nicely sharded. It actually allows you to distribute that data structure across a horizontally scaled architecture, ideal for service and cloud deployments. The proof of the pudding, as they say back in my country, is in the eating, and the advantages of this approach really stand out and speak for themselves. Even in very simple scenarios with small amounts of tables, the access to groups versus tables is much, much faster. We typically see, even on the simplest schemas, a 10x performance improvement. That's taking your worst queries and running them in the Akiban environment, they'll run 10x better. The good news is that as your data gets more complex, the relative performance just gets better and better, and we see that continue to grow to most of our design partners now are running their queries at least 20, 30, or 40 times faster. We're not trying to give you sort of, fairy tale solutions here in terms of thousands of times of performance improvement. We're just fundamentally eliminating the bottleneck of the join in this operation and therefore allowing the database to scale. Why does this matter? Obviously, performance is great, but it also matters in terms of cost. Everything typically starts out great in the application lifecycle. You've got a nice schema, then you start adding entities, you start adding customers, and as you go through different versions, you start doing unnatural acts to deal with this issue of joins. You denormalize the data, you replicate, you cache, you shard, eventually ending up in maybe ripping and replacing the entire architecture, trying to use NoSQL or a commercial database. What Akiban does is basically eliminates all of those costs, and that's important. IDC did a study that showed that a typical total cost of ownership of a relational database, 50 to 70% of the total cost of ownership is actually database administration on that database. And we're fundamentally eliminating those costs. And we're doing it in a way that's very easy to adopt. The intention is that you can simply augment your existing system rather than trying to rip and replace it. We provide a tool that allows you to have a really pretty much a point-and-click experience. You point at the database, you point at the problem queries. It does a grouping, which we deploy, and then you redirect your queries to that database. They run 10 to 50 times faster without disrupting any of your existing system. What's also an interesting innovation is that we've given you not just SQL access, but also we've given you a data API access, so you can access information through Memcache, through Hibernate, through Rails. Why does all this matter? Well, it's all about really driving down costs. I'm running out of time, so I'll be quick. Fundamentally, design partners are looking at reducing their cost of operation, $250,000. In this particular case, it's a social networking dating application. But at the same time, driving up revenue, because greater performance means more page views, means more subscriptions, and it's about balancing both of those, not just reducing costs, but most importantly, allowing the developers to really focus on the fundamentals of driving their business rather than spending all their time trying to refactor the database and the architecture. We are focused on transactional systems. We focus on operational systems in the enterprise. We are not in analytics space. We're not in the NoSQL space. We don't play in their space. They don't play in ours. Our intention is to disrupt this space with commercial open source offering. You save money, we make money. And finally, it's a team of really experienced professionals who've delivered this capability in the past. So what I would say is please join us. It's free.
Well done, David. Well done, and the judges are smiling, so they must like it, or I don't know.
They're smiling because it was 6 minutes.